One of the most challenging parts of Thanksgiving is making pies. I think all of us feel that it's difficult to make a pie and have it come out looking like we want it to look and still taste wonderful. So in part, I think the most challenging part is the crust of the pie and getting that crust from once we make it, getting it to the pie plate and then crimping a little edge and a nice border. And of course at Thanksgiving we want pumpkin pie, pecan pie, apple pie, you name it, everybody's favorite pie. And so I thought it would be a great time to work on some skills making pie crust. And this is a mixture of regular flour, Shawnee's Best, and cake flour. And the reason we add cake flour is because of the gluten that it does not have. The regular all-purpose flour has gluten in it, so we can make bread and all of those things, and it helps make the dough elastic. But when we're making pastry, we don't want all that elasticity. We just want our pastry to be nice and flaky, and so that it cuts through with a fork and it has a slight crunch to it. And I tell people their best friend when making pastry, and you can do this ahead of time, and that'll take a lot of the stress off, is to use frozen pieces of butter and shortening, whichever you're going to do. You can even chill the flour if you like, but I tell people that their refrigerator and their freezer are their best friend when making pastry. It's like having a pastry godmother in the kitchen with you. Now, what I've ended up with, you can kind of see in here, there are some, and I want to show this so we can look at it. There are some large crumbs and small crumbs. It's not necessary to have everything all uniform when you're making pastry. In fact, it's best if you don't have everything completely uniform, because you have various sized pockets in the pastry, when that just contributes to the fluffiness of it and flakiness of it. And I have true ice water. In other words, I have ice cubes in it. So I'm going to take those out now. So I'm going to start it up in pulse and add a little bit of water at a time. Okay, so we're going to take it, I'm going to dump this out on my clear plastic wrap. And then what I do is I just bring that up around itself. Again, I'm not touching the dough. I'm bringing that in and making a little round ball. And that's how it comes together. So you know it's going to be nice and flaky. If you look at this closely at this stage, you're going to see that it has little tiny pieces of butter throughout. And that's what you want, though, because during the baking, the butter melts and it leaves just a nice little cave in there, so that when you bite into it, you have this great pastry. Now, we're going to let this rest for about 30 minutes in the refrigerator, and then we'll be ready to roll. Now we're ready to roll it out. This has come right out of the refrigerator, and I've sort of rounded it off a little more, and you can still see those wonderful little spots of butter in it, and I know that it's going to be good because that does great. I keep turning the rolling pin instead of turning the pastry, and I know I shouldn't do it that way. Just a quarter of a turn is just fine. Now I'm going to get the pie plate, put it in position, roll the pastry around the rolling pin. It's an easy way to lift it. And then you let it fall in to place like so. You don't want to stretch it, because then it's going to stretch back when it's baking. So you just kind of lift it up and let it fall down in to fill the plate like so. I like to cut about ½ inch outside of the pie itself. If your pie is a little uneven or whatever, it's all the more special because you absolutely know it's homemade. And that's what I love to have for these special family meals during the holidays. And I'm just kind of turning this under like so, all the way around. So I just start and go around. You can do it like this with a finger on your hand, small or large, if you like that sort of crimp. Now we're ready for sort of put a few of the finishing touches on it. And this is for like a pumpkin pie or pecan pie, this particular crust, because I won't need a top crust for it. And so I have a pastry brush that has very flexible bristles on it. And I made an egg wash with just a little egg yolk and milk mixed together, a tablespoon or two of milk with an egg yolk. And then I'm just brushing this on the outside edges. And this makes a nice golden crust. You just see some edges that aren't quite done. I take a little bit I use turbinado sugar, or you can use just regular granulated sugar, and I go around the edge and let just a little bit stick to the egg wash. Now, it's hard to do this once it's frozen, because the egg wash is going to be frozen too, and it doesn't want to stick. So I put just a little bit, not a huge amount, because I don't want the sugar will burn ahead of the pastry cooking. So you don't want to get so much that it gets on there like that. Okay, so here we go. And that is your finished pastry ready to fill. And so now I'm going to put this in the freezer for 30 minutes to an hour and let that set up like that. And this is how you capture that rim to let it hold its shape once it's in the oven to bake. The main thing is it's going to taste great because it's homemade and it's using Oklahoma ingredients.